Today we're going to talk about quadrantal angles. Those are angles whose terminal side fall on an axis rather than inside of a quadrant. I have the degree that measures already labeled on my circle with radius 1. We could also put the ordered pairs that are associated. So you see we have lots of zeros, ones, and negative ones as coordinates on those axes. So it's important for us to remember how to do reciprocals of those special types of numbers. So looking at the table, -1 as a fraction is written as -1 over 1. 1 as a fraction, 1 over 1. 0 as a fraction, 0 over 1. And an undefined value is undefined because it has a 0 in the denominator. We will also have to find reciprocals of these. A reciprocal of -1 would be 1 over -1, which is still -1. Not so bad. The reciprocal of 1 is still 1. Here's where it gets special. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined. And the reciprocal of something already undefined is 0. So we want to be sure to recall these reciprocals easily as we find reciprocal trig functions at quadrantal angles. The reciprocal of -1 is itself. The reciprocal of 1 is 1. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined, and the reciprocal of undefined is 0. We also want to recall on our unit circle that every single coordinate is represented by the cosine and the sine. All x coordinates are the cosine of that particular angle. All y coordinates are the sine of that particular angle. Tangent is y over x, which is equal to sine over cosine. Using that information, we will be able to find the values of quadrantal angles without relying on right triangles. So once again, let's put on our ordered pairs. At 0 degrees, also at 360 degrees, we have the ordered pair 1, 0. Sine is the y coordinate. Cosine is the x coordinate. Tangent is sine over cosine, 0 over 1, which is 0. And here's where we have to use our reciprocals. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. The reciprocal of 1 is 1. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined. Let's do the same thing at the other angles. At 90 degrees, we have the ordered pair 0, 1. Sine is the y coordinate. Cosine is the x coordinate. Tangent is sine over cosine, y over x, 1 over 0, which is undefined. Cosecant would be the reciprocal of 1. Secant is the reciprocal of 0. Cotangent is the reciprocal of undefined. And again, I'll refresh your memory. We had undefined came from 1 over 0. The reciprocal of 1 over 0 is 0 over 1. And here's a good little trick I have seen to help us remember. 0 over anything else is okay. 0 in the denominator is a no-no. Back to our unit circle. At 180 degrees, we've got the ordered pair -1, 0. Sine is the y coordinate. Cosine is the x coordinate. Tangent is sine over cosine. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined. The reciprocal of -1 is -1. And finally, at 270, sine is the y coordinate. Cosine is the x coordinate. Tangent is sine over cosine, which is undefined. The reciprocal of -1, the reciprocal of 0, the reciprocal of undefined. Another thing I want you to notice is some similarities. Cosecant and cotangent are undefined at any angle that lands on the x-axis, whereas tangent and secant are undefined at any location, any angle that ends on the y-axis. And you will have to answer questions like these. What is cosine of 0? Well, 0 degrees is right here. Cosine is the x coordinate. So the cosine of 0 degrees is 1. What is cosecant of 180 degrees? 180 degrees is over here. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined. What is the secant of -180? Well, you know what? I'm going to find a coterminal angle first. -180 plus 360 is 180. So we are again using that ordered pair. The secant of -180, which is in the same location as +180, is the reciprocal of cosine, and the reciprocal of -1 is -1. What about the cotangent of pi over 2? Pi over 2 is right here. Cotangent is cosine over sine. Which would be x over y, 0 over 1 is 0. What is the cosine of -90? I could go this way and know that -90 is also 270, or mathematically, I could find a coterminal angle and realize that I'm looking at the same location as 270 degrees. The cosine is the x coordinate. And finally, secant of 3 pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 2. I could find a coterminal angle. I'm going to add 2 pi, which would be 4 pi over 2. My coterminal angle is pi over 2. Or I could think of my angle going negative 1, negative 2, negative 3 pi over 2. Your choice. Regardless, I'm using the ordered pair 0, 1. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine, and the reciprocal of 0 is undefined. The other type of question you might need is something like this. Just knowing what is undefined at different locations. At 90 degrees, anything that has a cosine in the denominator, because that's where the 0 is, a 0 in the denominator creates an undefined value. So think of trig functions that have a cosine in the denominator. That would be the reciprocal of cosine, which is secant, and sine over cosine, which is tangent. Let's go through that logic again at 180 degrees. 0 in the denominator is what creates an undefined. That means any of our trig functions that has a sine in the denominator would be undefined at 180. The reciprocal of sine and cosine over sine would both have a 0 in the denominator and be undefined. 270. Cosine is 0. So any angles coterminal with 270, the trig values that would be undefined are the same as the ones at 90 degrees because of cosine in the denominator would be the reciprocal of cosine and sine over cosine. Finally, at 360 or 0 degrees, sine has the value of 0. Anything with a sine in the denominator would be undefined. Same thing that happened at 180. Reciprocal of sine and cosine over sine are undefined on the x-axis.